email. We can always send us an email, give us a phone call. We're open to that. So we go from there. So again, welcome to 2021 PAAE Summer Conference here, Wellsboro, Northern Region. Welcome to the Northern Region. And just a hats off to Central Columbia for allowing us to do this here today. Take time off our summer schedule to do that. Curt and I are on here as we work together for 22 years as ag teachers. And now Curt's our cooperative ed director, still working together here, obviously. We've gone through numerous of these evaluations together, but he brings a very valuable piece to the puzzle. And I'm going to share that here real quickly. I have a PowerPoint that's in the share folder. I'll bring that up here. But we're going to jump all the way down to, just because this is a piece that gets a little skewed and people keep coming in here. So that's why we keep putting them in. But Jess Balmer, can you see that? Can you guys see the screen?
I can, yes.
Okay, good. That's why I want to make sure. Yep. Have a little bit of tech issues there on their end. So just want to make sure we're good here. So what we're going to do here is going to have Curt talk a little bit about this section 20.1 to 20.9. I know it's jumping ahead, but we thought it was to be a best way to do this because this is the area that PDE is really focusing on now. And this is the area that causes most of the trouble. This capstone cooperative education section. Curt being a recent graduate at Temple University and taking over our cooperative ed coordination at Central Columbia, which was one of our, I don't want to say downfalls, it just wasn't in place when we went through our last evaluation just a few years ago. Now, evaluations are on every 5 years, and it all depends on who you get. And I'm going to go back once Curt gets done here to talk about what to look for and not to be afraid of these evaluations, because PDE wants you to be successful. They don't want you to falter, because it's their position as well at PDE as part of vocational and career technical education that is really crucial for them as well. So that's kind of why we want to jump ahead here. So I'm going to open this up to Curt. He's going to talk a little about cooperative ed, and then we're going to jump back and kind of restart from the very beginning, but not really hip hopping around. There is a plan why we're doing it. So, all right, Curt, go for it.
All right, good morning, everybody. Obviously, if you've gone through a 339 evaluation, it's not the most exciting stuff getting those 100-foot thick binders around and all that, but I do feel the next round here, it's going to come through digitally. So I've kind of switched gears here. Because of our last 339 audit, part of our corrective action plan was to address, I'm just going to say, lack of a proper cooperative ed program within our school district. And so my position and my hiring came out of that corrective action plan. It is the first time in our school district's history we have had a full-time cooperative education coordinator. So I'm basically hitting the floor running here, getting a program up and going. I did complete this full past school year in this capacity. Even amongst all the COVID stuff going on in the fall semester, I still had 58 seniors placed outside working somewhere. Some of them were in-house in some of our district buildings, but probably 90% were in the community. So some of the language that I might throw at you, you might not understand. And technically, I didn't until about 2 years ago after taking courses. But there's quite a few things they're going to look for in this cooperative ed piece. First of all, the cooperative ed piece 100% revolves around your approved programs. We have currently 5 programs at Central. We have a 6th one that just got approved and will start this coming school year. You obviously can't have cooperative ed if you don't have approved programs, and obviously you wouldn't be going through the 339 evaluation if you didn't have them. But when they throw this terminology at you called capstone co-op capstone, that basically are the students that are in one of those approved programs that have completed the program, and their senior year, they're now going to get either a paid or unpaid co-op placement at a job site. And obviously that work site should directly relate to the program that they're in. So that's the whole capstone thing. At Central Columbia, we also have what's called internships. And internships mostly are unpaid. Capstone, I really try to get everybody paid. But in the midst of COVID, that didn't happen. Technically, either one could be paid or unpaid. But internships is how we categorize every other student that's not in an approved program, but they still want to get out and get a work experience related to their career pathway at the high school. So those are kind of the two areas I focus on.
Before you go any further, I'm just going to jump in there for the folks that may not know. An approved program is those programs that your district has decided to go through this evaluation process, have an active OAC, have an active LAC, have an active special education piece to this evaluation. Also is valuable in the aspects that they've done a scope and sequence, and that their advisory boards have given them advisement on where they think they should be going according to industry and what industry is calling for. The ultimate goal of this is that your district is receiving state funds from PDE to coordinate these ag programs. So could you be an ag program that's not an approved program? Absolutely. But again, if you're an approved program, it's the way to do it. If you're going to involve transfer students, which we do, that's a vital piece to give you solidification, feather in your hat, gives you justification why you exist, numbers of reasons why you want to be an approved program. So yes, approved program could be, an ag program could be non-approved, but still be existing. All that does is says that the local school district has waved a white flag to any state funding, and they're going to fund it by their own local taxation. All right, just want to throw that out there.
Doug, can you either share I have it on my screen, either give me sharing ability or share the evaluation form. I want to go right off the language of the form.
Yep, I can do that. So let me end this quick.
Curt, I gave you co-host ability, so you can share stuff too if you need be.
Oh, awesome. I have it ready, Doug, if you want me just to bring it
Yeah,
up.
go for it. Yeah, you can go for it. Yep.
I wasn't sure if I had the power, John.
You got it there?
Yep. So I've just skipped right down to section 20 of the PD evaluation form. Are you still able to admit those, Doug or John, if people come in?
Yep, we're doing it right now.
Okay, I don't have to do that. Okay.
Nope. Yeah.
So we'll just go right off the language. And again, I have yet to go through one of these officially in my new capacity and in this section, but I've already dealt with all this stuff.
Well, let's throw that out there real quick. This forum, folks, is in the folder for the course for the conference, but this is the brand new form. So this is the form that COVID has kind of pushed these evaluations back a year. So if you were supposed to be evaluated 2 years ago, probably on the docket, if you were this past year, you're off another year. So they pushed it back at least a year, maybe two. We can have that conversation a little bit when you're supposed to be part of this, but this is the current form that's being used by Gene and Lee and the group at PD when they come to your site. Okay.
So just a couple terminologies here. A couple of the big things that they want to see documented is that any of your senior students that are out working, and I'll back up 1 second. I obviously still work with a lot of senior ag students. So most of you might be interested in this from the ag perspective, but I have students obviously within all of our programs in the school that I work with now. But I still have a huge contact with the ag students. And there's a lot of overlap with placement SAEs and co-op. We can get into that here in a little bit. Anyways, there are two vital documents that your school has to prove is being conducted. It's called the training agreement and the training plan, if you've never heard of that terminology. The training agreement is what I call a work contract. It's like when you accepted your position, it was the contract that you agreed to and you signed off accepting that position. It lists all of the contact information of the student, of the workplace, the hours they're anticipated to work, and it proves that they're getting paid at least minimum wage, which is absolutely a requirement for a student working in a co-op. They can't pay them below minimum wage. The second form that's vital is called the training plan. And the training plan has all the same contact info on it, but it highlights the specific job tasks and responsibilities that the student will be conducting at their workplace. And it's signed off by their supervisor. Obviously, any of these students that are still under the age of 18 are considered minors. They have to have an adult supervisor that's in charge of them. They have to have work permit papers if they're under 18, and a bunch of other stuff. Clearances from the supervisors, the 3 clearances that we need. The child line for child abuse, the state police check, and either fingerprints or an affidavit that's signed off saying the supervisor has been a Pennsylvania resident for at least the last 10 years. So all that stuff, if they're a minor. My job gets a lot easier if they turn 18 or when they turn 18 during their senior year, because a lot of that stuff goes out the window when they become an adult, according to the age. So training plan, training agreement, very, very vital. And you'll see that here under 20.3, they're talking about the training plan and training agreement. And basically, all the I's have to be dotted and T's crossed on those 2 documents and you're in good shape. Provide documentation of payment of existing legal wage. That's going to come in 2 forms. 1, their pay rate is on the training agreement. And 2, they have to keep records of their hours worked, gross pay, and withholdings. And one reason of that is because we have, the child labor laws that we have to follow if they're still a minor. The other thing that I want to say is, being an ag teacher, being involved with AET, I didn't reinvent the wheel. I actually worked out something with Roger at AET, and he developed a tweak on the AET for ag and tweaked it for CTCs and co-op. And I have my students basically using a changed form of AET as if they were a placement project, but just tweaked for co-op. So that's how my students have been keeping track of pictures of evidence that they're working, pictures with captions and all of their pay hours and so forth, just like you have done with a placement project. So that's how I've gone about it. That's the ag teacher and me using what I had at my disposal.
All right, Curt, before you go any further, let's handle 2 of the questions that came up here. One from Heather Anderson. If you're not certified to teach cooperative education, how can you have a capstone program and not get cited?
I can tell you one thing, that's going to be, I would believe, a red flag when you have your next audit if you're getting state reimbursement for that approved program. Now, I will say this, and I'll say VOTEC because the CTCs and the VOTECs have had this for a long time. You do not have to do a co-op to complete an approved program, to be a completer, to take the NOCTI. There are plenty of students in the various CTCs, and if we have CTC people on here, please correct me if I'm wrong, but just because you complete a CTC program does not mean you have to do a co-op. You could choose to stay at that school your 4th year and just go through more curriculum. Is that a true fact from anybody that's on here from a CTC? That's what I'm led to believe, unless anybody corrects me. So I would agree, Heather, that at the public high schools, it would probably be the same thing. They don't have to do a co-op. Now, we have one caveat, some of you might have, we have transfer students. So we have transfer students coming from surrounding districts that are 100% Central Columbia student, and their district is paying tuition to us. Those students absolutely must do a co-op because the reason they're here is for that program, and they have to cap the program off with a capstone experience. Did I answer that question somewhat?
We'll have Heather see if she's good with that one. As she does that, let's move on to the next one. Renee Cambruzzi's got a good question. Is the training contract, training plan that you addressed, something that PDE provides, or is it something that you came up with for us? Or did Temple University come up with that?
So PDE, you can always get a hold of PDE's website or get a hold of someone, and they will always provide you generic examples from the PDE info. So yes, you could get a generic info, a generic form of the contract, the agreement, and the training plan from them. Through my coursework, we had to develop our own, and since Central Columbia didn't have anything developed, in the last 2 years when I took coursework via Temple, every time I completed a project, I did it. I mean, obviously I didn't have the position yet, but I completed it as if I had to do it for Central. And so through my coursework, I developed a lot. I basically took PDE's training agreements and training plans. I looked at maybe 5 or 6 other programs that already had them developed, and I just tweaked it and made my own. I'm not hiding anything at any point in time. I could make that available to anyone. My email, I'll type it here in the chat real quick. If anybody wants anything, I would gladly email it to you. There's my email in the chat. But I've made basically, there was nothing that existed currently at Central. I have developed everything. Some of them I'm already tweaking since I've been 1 year into it. But there is a lot to do. Some of your forms might already be created. That depends on your school.
Here's another
Yeah.
question real quick.
I'm
So-
looking at it here now, Doug. I can go right down
Okay,
through here.
see it, Doug?
Let
We're
me
just gonna
go
try
out-
to handle some of these questions as we go here,
Yep.
so.
Guys, I think I'm gonna go right to AET that I'm on share screen here. And again, I'm not a brainiac. I just tried using something that was already developed and tried to get it tweaked.
Hey, just to add a little humor here, he's not a tech guy. I'm telling you that right now.
Listen, I brought you a long way, so you owe me everything. So I was in last summer at this time in contact with Roger at AET back and forth. And him and I came up with what we used the first year here. And I can still have access to the ag one, but I have to sign in differently. So I'm now in, you can see at the top, Central Columbia CTE. That's just what we called it. And the cool thing that I thought of to help everyone is when students go in, I'm going to go into my test account here that Mama Faye helped set up. I think I saw her log in. If I'm a student and I go into this test account and I want to do a journal entry. Hang on, you know what? My bad. I got to back out and sign, I think. No, we're good. Okay, so I want to go do a journal entry. When I go in and do a journal entry, and you'll see some of this stuff is deleted because this isn't FFA and ag, so we kind of took the stuff out we didn't need. And if I go in here and choose my project that I want to enter a record into, check this out. Those items going across the top, and I will have to add the 6th one for our new program. Does anybody recognize? I'm going to go to ag mechanization. Let's go to ag sciences. Does anybody recognize those items? Somebody tell me what they are.
Task list.
That's
Curt?
the task. Very good. That is the task grid from PDE for each of our 5 approved programs that I gave Roger, so that when a student goes in and does a journal entry, if they need to add this entry right here, it's a done deal. They add it and save it. And it shows up right here in their journal entry. So I'm trying to make it a bulletproof system each week and at least once a week, or if a student gets paid once every 2 weeks, they go in and provide an entry just like a placement kid would for FFA. And they give me all their information for hours worked, pay, what they did, and they click on the skills that were addressed that week at their placement site. So if I go back to the chat, I think that might answer Krista's question a little bit.
Yeah, and while we work through that, of course, the ag science students and the FFA students, FFA members, this is beautiful for them because they're already we're well aware of it. And again, most of your internships are going to be junior, senior based, co-ops, job shadows, that type of thing. So the younger kids, as they get started, sure, in AET, they may be a little rough with it, but by the time they're going to do an internship, they're going to be, or a co-op, they're going to be very fluent in AET. So it becomes very easy. So the folks we had, he's going to bring up one of our just graduated seniors, Caroline Fitt, who's also a transfer student from the Hazleton area school district to our program. She's a doubler. So she would be not only an FFA kid, but also obviously a cooperative education student. She loved this. It was easy, simple. She understood it. And it's a simple way for them to do it. Now, a non-FFA ag kid, going to have to learn just like an ag kid would, how to do it. So that's part of the process that Curt takes them through when he also goes through classes for cooperative education, because they have to meet so often by chapter 339 ruling. They have to meet so often with a cooperative education director. He has started that process this year as well.
So all these students need to meet with me either 45 minutes once a week or 90 minutes every other. I chose the 90 minutes every other. And I have 2 days every 2 weeks where I am helter-skelter with meetings all day long because I have to fit it into the kids' schedules. I wanted to do 90 minutes every 2 weeks because then I would only disrupt them from one work day. The requirement is they meet with me when they would normally go to their work site once every 10 days. Now, the capstone kids are a little different. They meet with me very briefly, and then they go or have been instructed to work on things off of their task grid from their lead instructor from their improved program. Well, this is where it's nice for CTCs and tech schools because they can go down to, let's say, auto body and blend right in with the auto body class that's going on and keep working on their own items. In a public high school, that's kind of tricky because we have shorter periods where Doug might be teaching a class and he might not necessarily want 5 senior co-op students showing up for 90 minutes working on stuff. So we've blended that where the lead instructor can either push out digital work, they can push out during study halls or before or after school, and then the kids have to log what they've worked on for the 90 minutes every 2 weeks. And we're still trying to perfect that, but we're getting better with it. You guys, I don't need to show you a lot, but on the screen is one of my senior co-op students, excellent kiddo, transfer kid. I mean, you know what this stuff looks like. There's her financial entries, just like a placement for FFA. I have the kids document, they take a picture of their pay stubs every time they get paid. But then they also have, and I don't need to scroll down, she has some pretty awesome photos of what she did at her placement site. And then
Show one of those though. Show one of those for the new folks.
And then of course, here's the journal entries, which you all know what they look like, but it's cool because that task grid number goes right in.
This is so much simpler than what it used to be. Maybe a little bit difficult to set up at first, but much simpler. But when you look at the evaluation form from PDE, this hits it per se. There's the pay stubs. There's the dates they got.
I'm gonna have to go down quite a ways.
But anyways, long story short of it is, this is an easy way to hit that evaluation sheet from PDE in a simple fashion and not have to add more to the 3-inch binder, 4-inch binder, 12.
So to keep it simple, she worked in a food testing laboratory where they tested for salmonella and E. coli in food samples, mainly raw poultry and raw beef. Kind of fell in our lap. It was an awesome experience. She has been talking about nothing but toxicology as her future career since the day we met her. So it was a good placement, and just by dumb luck, we met the right person and fell into our laps here with this experience. Anyways, if I have time here near the end, I don't want to monopolize here, but I don't know if we have time, but I created a video, about a 2 to 3 minute video at the workplace for each program, I completed a senior video and they turned out pretty cool, but let me go to the chat room here. So that answers AET, hopefully. Okay, David, you agreed there with the not having to complete a capstone if you're in a program. Thank you. Non-paid positions. I'm going to be right up front. I'm not sure if we are 100% doing the non-paid ones correctly yet. We call everything that's not capstone related at Central, we call an internship, and 98% of my internships are unpaid. I still treat it as a paid position, all the same documentation, all the same requirements and sign forms. They're just not getting paid. And in AET, they just complete a journal entry and a task grid entry. They just don't have the pay information to put in weekly.
Yep.
Hi, Mama Faye, I see that. Okay. This is where Doug and I had a little divide in the road this past year. Some of these kiddos could absolutely use their co-op experience to account towards their FFA records for Keystone degrees and awards. Doug already had these students established on the ag side of AET, and I left it go for part of the year. But then the problem was all the pictures and pay stub pictures and all that got very cumbersome. So halfway through the year, and Caroline's a perfect example of this, I split Caroline out and had her do ag records and had her do CTC co-op records for me. I believe we're going to try to tweak that a little more this year, but it was a challenge. That's individual program. There are many other programs that your school districts could pay for to keep co-op records. I know Votex have been using programs for years. I just tried to use one that was familiar to me and tweak it.
Yeah, the whole, this go off that, when that whole thing started, just so you guys know, if you have a co-op director that may not be ag related, we're lucky enough we do, and we've worked together for years, is that I said to Curt, I said, that's not going to work. It is a bear on our side of it. And he's not seeing that. And it's just duplicating stuff. And it's making it really difficult for us on the other end. So we separated them out and it worked much better. But at the beginning, it was not pretty. That's for sure. So if you can keep them separate for right now, I would say that's the way to go, at least from the FFA side of it, maybe not so much from the co-op side of it. I guess that's my next thing with you guys, experienced or new folks. Find out who your cooperative education teacher is, one. Two, who's your PIMS and CATS coordinator? Ours is our assistant principal. I'll use Dave Bittner over at Milton as an example. He's a teacher over at Milton, ag teacher formerly a couple other places, but Midwest, a place like that. Dave started a new program at Milton here in the northern region. And now he's assumed the PIMS CATS coordinator position as well. If you want to do that, that's great. You have a handle on it. Ours is our assistant principal, but we're in his back pocket 24/7. Remember, all school districts by law, June 30th of that current year is when their PIMS and CATS reports are due. It's not just involving approved programs though. Transportation, it involves free and reduced lunches. Lots of items go into that report. So a lot of people have, fingers that go into that piece of it. So let's go back to Krista's question here. Guess what she really want to know is, can a co-op teacher at another school get access if they talk to Roger?
Yeah, I saw that.
Yep.
So Krista, I'm aware, and I've been in email contact with a person from Greenwood, if that's who you're referring to, that's starting, I think you guys are starting a DO program there. That's just language. But anyways, I did not get a visit. I was trying to get down there this year and I didn't. I did visit Milton. They are starting a program. And they're just asking me for some examples and to make a visit. I would gladly come to Greenwood and make a visit. I had intended to do that. It didn't work out. I just emailed Roger last year and said, Roger, I have an idea. I've worked with AET for years. This is what I want to do. And we kind of went back and forth with some different versions. There's still a couple things I want him to tweak. Carol Fay, if you're on there, are you able to send a test count from my CTC version for someone to look at, or does that have to go through Roger? We'll find out.
Well,
Maybe
she's in the room with me. She said maybe she can try.
So Carol, Roger, when I log in on my CTC version, and I'll gladly share my password with you, Carol, if you want. I have a test account that you guys saw me go into, and I would be fine if somebody wanted to play around with a test account. 20.7 right there in front of you, there's the meeting times. Documentation of that for me is the students' journal entries in AET, documenting what they did for 90 minutes every 2 weeks with their lead instructor for their program. So that suffices for that. At least that's what I'm going to use till they tell me I have to do something different. And that's pretty much it. I don't want to hit everything, but it's going to be new for us. It's our first time going through an evaluation. When I just mentioned DO program, that stands for Diversified Occupations. We do not have one at Central. I don't know if we're going to pursue it. It's its own standalone approved program. So that would make another approved program for someone to keep track of for the audit process. I'm going to let it at that. Let me see chat here.
Cost to be a capstone AET.
And then lump those records together. And then, okay, so we'll see about that for American Degrees.
Yep.
All right, I got to be honest with you. I'm the first one to ever ask Roger this at AT. So this past year, he left me do it for free as a pilot. I then told Roger, we want to go ahead and use it from year to year, and it may be as many as 70 or 80 kids. And he came up with a price for me, and it was very cheap. I think it was $375 for the year for all those kids. So I may have to revisit that. I initially told him 50 students. I'm in the 60s right now, but I guess my point is Roger can give you access, and I just budgeted for it. And I think it's very cheap and cost efficient.
So let's bounce off that just for a minute, because that's a great question as you relate to folks that are moving to a new program, coming into a new program, starting a program, or just taking over for somebody that may not have been through this process yet. It is something that numbers of ways. One, remember, an approved program, you're receiving state money to make this program work. $375 to make this work is little money. That's one. Two, if you're a transfer school like we are, every school's transfer dollar sign's a little different, right? I'm not going to hide it here. Central Columbia is about $14,000. So every every year that Caroline Fitt came to Central Columbia, which she was a 2-year kid, Hazleton School District spent $14,000 and gave that to Central Columbia. So it can be an income. $375 is not big dollars here. So again, don't think about the dollar sign like being, oh boy, it's a concern. It should not be a concern for the administration, right? So that's a good question by Schaefer there. Good one.
Just one last thing. Sorry, Krista Moser. I just assumed it was Krista Pontius. Anyways, I'm an email away. If anybody needs anything, once I get done here and turn it back over to Doug, I'm going to go to YouTube and I'll share one of my video links. It should work. It's not public, but I think it'll work. I'll share Caroline, the student that we brought up in AT, her video link. If you guys want to check it out, I'm pretty proud. I think they turned out pretty awesome. They're just kind of a PR thing for our district, and they're on our website. And anyways, I'm gonna hang in for a few moments. If you have any further questions, please email me. Thank you, Doug, for the time.
Yeah, no problem. Just stay on here if you can, and we'll address some of the other issues as we go along. All right. So one of the things we want to do, right, is just kind of give you guys, let me do another sharing here real quick. I'm going to kind of bounce around just a little bit, but keep it within reason. But the idea behind it, all this is in the conference folder. So again, if you want to email us, that's fine too. But again, it's all in the conference folder that I gave to John. The biggest thing is, remember, we all did this because we chose to do this. It wasn't forced upon us. Our kids hear from me all the time. I chose this profession. It's just, it becomes a lifestyle. So as you're new to this and new to this position, just keep that in mind. Everybody's got a different take on that. So I'm just gonna let that go at that. The biggest thing with the evaluation, oh my God, Gene Kellner's coming to my school. What do? I'm scared out of my mind. Lee Burkett doesn't come out much, but Gene does. Remember, I'm going to go back for a minute. The best thing you as an ag educator and your administration can do is become friends with PDE. I'm not saying good friends. I'm just saying make sure that you have concepts here. And I'm going to bring up a document that really helped us the last time we went through this, which was about 2 or 3 years ago. We met with them. Our evaluation was to be in springtime in March, but we did a pre-meeting in October. I'm highly encouraging that to have a pre-meeting, invite them to your school. What? Invite them to our school. I don't even want them there. No, do it. It is something that really breaks down the barriers of what they really want to see. Oh, and by the way, you can fix some things before they get there 6 months later. And that's what we did. Remember, all these fixes are what they are. They're going to be red flags. Curt talked about red flags, but they're not going to shut you down. They're not going to turn away money for it. But it does help the administration say, okay, we have to do this, or we have to do that before they get there. It really helps. I'm going to show you in a little bit, I'm going to show you a pre-meeting worksheet that we used that was phenomenal, right? So be prepared for this evaluation, be organized. Don't just be kind of doing it off the cuff. Be transparent. You heard Curt say, we're not hiding anything here. It is what it is. Either we do it or we don't do it. We have it or we don't have it. Don't try to make up something, because those folks at PDE, they'll see right through it. You folks have been around a while like I have been. Our last evaluation was done with Dr. Howe, James Howe. He did a great job with us. And he said, Doug, one of the biggest things you guys did is you were transparent. You were fair. You were upfront with us. We saw everything you had. Don't try to hide anything. But the other side of it is be excited. You get a chance to show your program to the state who doesn't come to your place only once every 5 years. Show it off. It's a great idea. It's kind of what helped us transfer our program into transfer students from other districts that didn't have an ag program. So that's a really great example there. Think why this is important. Obviously, we're a career pathway school. You hear Curt talk about pathways. Ours falls underneath the agri-science, science, and health pathway. One of the larger pathways in our district. But it also helps out with the PAAE TEP evaluation. NOCTI, cooperative education, is a huge component of the SPP score. You are helping the school district look very, very good in PDE's eyes. And that's what they want to see. So this career evaluation part is a huge piece of the puzzle now. So we're now big players in the game, right? And the other big key is look at that evaluation packet, right? That Curt kind of brought up here with the cooperative ed, going through we don't have time today to go through each of those funnels, but my PowerPoint is in there that addresses items that you should have in your binder. Curt believes, and we also believe, that this will probably be digital within the next couple of years. So you won't have to produce that big thick binder or binders per approved program. Every approved program has to have a binder, right? Go ahead, Heather.
You don't have binders anymore, Doug.
Okay, good.
We're in the process right now, and Gina set up a Google Drive for everything, and so there are folders nested within folders nested within folders. Like you just start it in one and go down through 23 or 24, whatever the end folder.
Good to know. Yep, great.
Yeah, scanned and uploaded.
Is it user friendly, Heather?
Yes, to an extent. It really helps if you have the printed out checklist, that step by step. If you have it laying next to you, it helps you navigate it a little bit faster.
Yep.
And it's very easily shareable. So as a department, we've all been uploading things throughout the entire school. We can send emails and say, hey, here's the folder. You need this folder, subfolder this, and you can tell people where to go and where to put it. Doug, probably one of the biggest things I find though is it's still incredibly repetitive. If you need a student transcript once, you need it like 3 times. I mean,
maybe more like 13 times. Travis.
yeah, you know what I'm saying though. Like there's
Yep, I
things
know.
that you put in once and you're like, this is ridiculous. I just did this.
Yeah, they got
So,
to, I wish they would have streamlined that a little bit better.
lot.
But she does bring up Heather brings up a great point. And I'm going to talk to folks about this is either if you knew or you haven't gone through it yet. You are not the only player from your school district in this game. Administration plays a huge part. Your curriculum coordinator plays a big part. Your cooperative education coordinator plays a big part. Guidance plays a huge part. And your special education director. All these people are players in this game. This is not just an ag teacher thing. And I get a lot of emails and phone calls about it, about, man, how do I do this? How do I do that? Well, it's not all on you, right? There's a lot of pieces that go into this puzzle. So let me just real quickly break a couple of these down. The other thing that's kind of repetitive, like Heather talked about, was lesson plans, assessments, numbers of times, student schedules, right? These type of things. It is what it is, right? So you're just going to have to play that game out. But remember, the documents you need are only from the last 2 years, only the last 2. So, and when they say follow a student through a program, I'm going to bring our student up right now that Curt and I had. There was one of the best students we've ever had, and that's Abigail Yoder, former state officer 2 years ago. Well, and we followed her schedule from 9th grade all the way through. Her SAE projects, her schedule, her transcript, all of that went right through it. Great kid. And we followed all those. So we showed one kid for 4 years. But remember, a lot of the documents are only from the last 2 years. So, so when you get into the evaluation process, don't flip out about that part of it either, right? That's a good point there that Heather brought up. OACs and AECs play a big portion in this. I'm going to be working with Beth Matthey here on Thursday. She's going to be she's doing a large study right now of OACs and AECs. And Dave Riverick's on here today. Glad to see Dave here. And again, he's one of our OAC specialists here in the state. So again, you have questions about OACs or AECs, obviously we're here for you that have been around a while. But those OAC and AEC specialists, Dave Riverick, Beth Matthey, and John Seaman are available as well through the Center for Professional Development. That's for sure. The task grids. Curt referred to the task grids. I'm kind of just going through some stuff. Post those task grids in your classroom. Post them, right? The ag mechanization ones, we just produced new ones that are going to be approved here this past November. They've altered a little bit. We've streamlined them a little bit, but all those task grids from all those approved programs get updated occasionally. Post those in the classroom. They want to see those when they visit. Also, have a student go through and mark an initial and date when they did their task grid. So what Christy Good and I do is the days that we have AET days in class, which is usually one Friday a month, I highly suggest that as well. Curt and I started that, and our administration believes in it. Got to remember, our superintendent sits on the Ag Ed Commission, so we may be a little different animal than most. But we take one Friday a month and we do that. And during that same time frame, we have the kids go through the task grid, junior, sophomore, senior, whenever it is, initial it and date when they did that task. Then we go through and we initial and date it as well. That task grid should be from 2 students from the last 2 years totally completed through their 4 years. You're going to have to show that. And that's what we're talking about here with 1.3, right? So it's just something that Christy and I have, and Curt and I have kind of developed over the years. A simple AET update day. We call it AET day. We also call it task grid day. And we just kind of update that as we go. So it's not all at one shot at the end. The other big hang up we used to have was letters from local businesses. And this is where you can work with your cooperative ed director on getting them to state why those students and internships are important. So we've had folks that have been on a dairy farm, or we had folks at a local vet hospital give us professional letters stating, why it's important that students go out in industry. That's also important as well. So that's a piece to the puzzle as we look at it here, as we go through it. I'm just going to stop sharing it real quick. I want to show you that particular pre-meeting sheet. I think it's important. So we call it a program pre-meeting sheet. Let me share it here quick. So everybody see that? Can you guys see that, Heather? Okay. So what this is a worksheet for preparing a site visit. This is something that we did a couple years ago. This is a item that you go through, and I'm just going to kind of scroll a little bit, that helps you prepare. So if you were having a spring meeting evaluation, I would do this in the fall. If I'm having a winter meeting, I would try to do it early in the fall of that school year. If you're having a late spring meeting, have a early winter meeting with us, maybe not so much in the fall, but invite PDE to your site, either through virtually or in person. Ours was in person, to sit down and break the barriers down between PDE and your administration and get all the players in the game at the same table. It was vitally important the last time we did it. We did not do it 2 times ago, but we did do it the last time. And our visit was so smooth, it was easy to go. Now, granted, Curt at the time and myself, we're players in this game. Jean knows us very well. We know her very well. So again, if you're new to the business of ag education or new to this program approval visit item, play it out there. Let them see what you got. Let them help you do it. So many times I would pull Jean down during that visit. And I said, listen, look at this. Do you think it's okay or not? Look at this. Is this okay or not? From the shop being designed to the layout to, is this colored right? Is this the right cabinet? Is this, and she shares many stories through her time with us. Does this ag advisory minutes look okay or not okay? Does this school board approval look okay or not okay? So use them as a leverage tool to make the visit a little less frightful. I'll say it that way. All right. So we go from there. Curt, you want to add anything to that point?
No, I think we're good there.
Okay. I'm going to share an example of work that Curt did real quick, because I thought this was a great piece, because this is important. This is, remember, if you're an approved program, you have to have a chapter 339 guidance plan. Our elementary school guidance counselor is in charge of our K-12 school guidance program. She has 2 meetings a year, one in the fall, one in the spring, showing what we are doing as school district K-12 for chapter 339. This would be an example of one of her, this was from 2019, don't mind the year, right? But 339 K-12 school guidance program. Yeah, K-12. And they want to see that. And she's in charge. And one of the guidance folks has to take that on. That's their role that they play in this approval process. So I just wanted to show you that particular item. This was guided by Curt through his cooperative ed certificate. He did that. And again, this is all in the Google Classroom, or sorry, Google folder that John has set up for the conference here. I also want to share with you real quickly. Obviously, everybody's going to know this form. If you don't, it becomes your best friend at the beginning of the year and at the end of the year, right? And that is obviously your objective form, right? Student objective form. Students fill this out. We do it the second day of school. We do it with them. It's something that we just do as early school items. Our school administration believes in it. They think it's great. The ideas of getting these kids aligned to the right areas. They're SOCs, right? Get them in the right code area, get it signed by parent, get it signed by the student, guidance counselor, then obviously us. Every student needs one of these. This is your student objective form, obviously needed by PDE in your evaluation. We do it every year, no matter if we're on evaluation year or not. That's for sure. So, okay. So I just want everybody to see that as well. Anybody have any questions at this point? I think we're going to open it up here the last 5 minutes or so for some questions that you may have. Curt and I kind of thought we'd do this together. If you guys have any questions for us that are particular to the process, or anybody that's gone through it recently. We don't want to be named to claim experts here. But we have gone through it a couple of times and we are in PD's back pocket. Does anybody have any questions for us? We'll go to the chat here real quick. Make sure you've signed in, obviously, so you get credit for the workshop here today. And again, any emails, Dave Riverick, John Seaman, Beth Matthey, myself, Curt Turner, any of us will try to help you out. Yeah, so the new task grids versus the old task grids. If they started in an old task grid, keep them in the old task grid, just add the new task grid to it, call it good. Don't have them go back and try to start that process. So if you have a senior that started underneath the old task grid, remember our approved programs at Central Columbia in ag are the related plant, animal, vet, environmental science, 01999. And ag mechanization 010201, right? So that's our two approved programs that we have in ag, right? Keep that in mind as we go along here, right? So yeah, that's what I would do with the task grid sheets.
Hey,
Curt's-
Doug,
Yeah, Curt's cooperative ed certificate was Temple University. He can refer more to that. So you can kind of go from there as you go. Questions? Yeah, throw them out there.
yeah, and I'm using the audio on my computer for those of us in person. Sarah Beth, you had a question? Do you want to ask?
I do. You want me to walk it down?
Or, yeah, can you guys hear her if she talks?
Can you hear me?
It works better if she can get closer. Yeah, she's very echoey right now. And for you folks who are at Wellsboro, I'm going to be at Wellsboro tomorrow. I'm coming up from Central Columbia here tomorrow, early tomorrow morning. So I'll be there tomorrow.
So in the chat, I posted the question about PAAE was the one that really helped institute this 339 years ago. They helped regulate it. And so I didn't know if we were still in charge of that or if it was the commission. And David responded back and said, that's back on PAAE, not the commission. So here's my question, since it's back on PAAE. Every time we get audited, we are flagged because not every one of our classes says the word agriculture in it. And so every year we have to justify this. Unfortunately, we've always gotten very friendly people that allows us. And here's the example. When we called our class Intro to Agriculture Mechanics, we were getting 20 kids to sign up. And in the Advanced Ag Mechanics class, we were getting 5. So I did a ton of research, talked to other schools, and we changed the name. So Intro to Ag Mechanics is called Living on Your Own. We get 140 requests for it just because of the name change, because kids don't read the course selection sheets and they thought they were working on tractors. And then Essential Home Projects is up to like 40 to 50 requests a year. But PDE flags them and wants us to change the name back every year, which would kill the program. And so we've been fortunate because our evaluators have really helped us and they're super nice. So they push it through after we justify it. But I guess PAAE, I guess we need to meet with them, with Lee, and talk to them about these name issues, because the whole purpose is for our numbers. And if we have to go back to those names, it's going to kill our program.
Yeah, good, very good point, Sarah Beth. One of those factors, I mean, I'll be honest with you, 2007, Curt Turner was PAAE president and took that underneath his wing and had many meetings at Harrisburg about Chapter 339 visits. What caused all this, and this is no disrespect to the CTEs that are on here today, but what ended up happening there was that money that was set aside for approved programs to go was being divvied up, right, between comprehensive high schools, which most of us are, and then the CTEs, and they didn't like that. So had some work had to get done on both sides, all three sides, I guess, the trifecta, between CTEs, VOTEX, career technical centers, comprehensive high schools, and PDE. Sarah Beth brings up a great point there. What PDE has not done a great job of is staying up with new technologies and new names that draw 21st century students to our programs. That is correct. So right now, that is something that PAAE is going to have to work on. And at the same point in time, PDE is going to have to be open-minded to some of the wording that we use for that. And that'd be my take on that as we go. Anybody else can say what they need to. Go for it. But as long as you can justify it, you're good, which she's done, we've done as well. Because not every one of our courses has that in it as well. I'll use land surveying as an example. Obviously, you can see the connection, but environmental science would be another one, right? But as long as you can justify it. But again, it's all on your on-site coordinator. Is that person going to be nice to you or not, right? So it's always one of those things. But again, being transparent is a big key here. That's for sure. So, yep.
I'll say a couple last minute things. First of all, I might have failed to mention, but when I was in that AET, the CTC version, I only showed you the ag science related approved program, but we have accounting, medical science, which is called rehab aid,
Engineering,
ag science, engineering, and now a communications, which has to be added to that. So it wasn't just for ag co-op students. The next thing I want to mention is all of you ag teachers know that we are already certified to supervise students at placement SAE projects related to ag. We are kind of unique. We're the only people that can do that besides co-op certified people. So if your school district decides to call your placement SAE project during the student's senior year a co-op, technically you are certified to supervise that student. As far as I know, I'm kind of the black sheep of my course cohort group through Temple because I was the only person there related to ag. So I was constantly asking ag related questions. Of course, there's a lot of caveats and loopholes with child labor laws relating to ag and family farms and businesses. So I was always the one asking the questions that nobody else really needed to know, but I wanted to know them. And I'm still learning, so.
and that's the other thing aspect. We put this together and we only touched a thumbnail of what this is about today. And I knew that's where we would be. But again, in the conference folder, I have placed items about the SOC manual. I placed items in there about establishing effective advisory councils. I'm more than willing to answer any question anybody's got through a phone call, email, whatever that may be, to do that. So don't let it stop here with folks. And again, we're not the only answer givers, I guess, providers, I guess, here. There's lots of folks that know as much or more than we do, but we just have been through this for a while and been in it a while. So on Nicole Geist, that's getting the program started, right? In our county or Millville, or your Morgan Campbell, and you took over for not say a legend, but Paul Heasley at State College, right? Or whatever it may be, wherever you are in your career, we're here to help you. And that's kind of what we're bringing to the table today. Again, we knew we weren't gonna be able to get through the whole evaluation sheet. We even touched a thumbnail of it. It's involved. It can be daunting. There's no question about it. It can be very stressful. It is. There's no question about it. Because a lot of people from administration, guidance, and I call it district office personnel, don't understand the importance of it, but you do. But remember, you're a big player in the game when it comes to the school district's SPP score, right? And that's a positive thing.